For much of the 19th century, many people thought that this was a genuine Beethoven original. But how could they be fooled by something that today appears to be such an obvious fake? It first appeared in 1838, 11 years after Beethoven's death, with a title that was too intriguing to ignore: Beethoven's Farewell to the Piano, his last composition. But the eye test alone is enough to cast some doubt on this claim. Here's a real Beethoven piece from the last few years of his life. It's a great example of how unique Beethoven's writing was: diverse textures, terse phrasing, and these abrupt, improvisatory gestures. No one else was writing music like this in the 1820s. Meanwhile, the Farewell to the Piano just looks bland in comparison, more like a generic salon work. It's safe to say that this is not an authentic Beethoven work, but how can we be so sure of that when people who actually lived during Beethoven's time were fooled by it? When you look at the reception of Beethoven's music after his death, you'll see that his works took a long time to spread outside of German lands and to be widely known and understood. For example, when the pianist Ignatz Moscheles visited Milan in 1853, he noted that even the music conservatory professors knew nothing of the German composers Beethoven and Mendelssohn. Franz Liszt took advantage of this phenomenon in 1836 by playing a memorable prank on his Parisian audiences. At the time, Beethoven's legacy was growing in France, but audiences didn't yet have a firm grasp on his music. Their appreciation for it was mostly superficial. So without announcing it, Liszt swapped a Beethoven piano trio on the program with an unknown trio by Johann Pixis, a composer who belonged to the generation after Beethoven. At the conclusion of the Pixis trio, the crowd went absolutely wild. They thought it was by the late German master, whose genius they had heard so much about. But then when it came time to play the Beethoven trio, the crowd's response was more lukewarm. They thought it was just a minor composer and treated it as such. Among the few people in the audience who actually caught the switch was the composer Hector Berlioz. So the prestige of Beethoven's name, combined with the unfamiliarity with his music, explains how this very un-Beethoven-like piece could have fooled an 1830s consumer. But then, why not just use a real piece by Beethoven? Wouldn't that have done the same thing? The problem with that, besides acquiring the rights to print it, was that Beethoven's late piano works didn't sell particularly well. Especially his later works were far too eccentric and difficult to be played by a broad audience. If they just reprinted an easier, early work from Beethoven's career, it wouldn't have been as eye-catching as marketing his supposed last composition. So in this case, for the publisher to raise their sales, it was better for them to create a more accessible, fake piece by Beethoven. It wasn't the first time a dishonest publisher had tried this tactic. In 1798, a Leipzig firm printed an apparently unknown Mozart sonata 7 years after his death. But by 1805, the work's true author was revealed to be August Eberhard Müller, a German composer and avid disciple of Mozart. While this deception only lasted several years, Beethoven's Farewell to the Piano became a hit for the next century. Its alluring title, nostalgic style, and accessibility made it the perfect choice for amateur players at domestic gatherings, especially those who wanted to brag that they could play Beethoven. This was essentially 19th century clickbait, sensationalized, deceptive content meant to prey off of the impulses of an unsuspecting audience. Considering there are still people who play and teach it today as an authentic Beethoven work, this is probably one of the most successful scams in music history.